Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back in time, not to a battlefield or a grand palace, but to the cobbled streets of Victorian London. We're going to follow the rhythmic, purposeful stride of a man in a blue uniform, a leather satchel slung across his shoulder. You're there with him, feeling the damp morning air against your face, the gas lamps just beginning to flicker out. You hear the clip-clop of a horse-drawn omnibus in the distance, the faint murmur of a city waking up. This isn't a story of kings and queens, but of communication, connection, and the quiet, almost invisible threads that held a massive empire together. You're about to discover a world where a simple pencil mark on an envelope could tell a whole secret story. A world where the postman wasn't just a delivery boy, but a silent, walking database of an entire neighborhood's secrets. It's a journey you probably won't survive, mostly because the sheer amount of walking would give you blisters you can't even imagine. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking the beat, feeling the weight of the leather satchel on your hip. It's early, but the city is already a symphony of noise. The cries of a newsboy, the clatter of milk churns, the distant whistle of a factory. You are a postman, a servant of the General Post Office, and you are a vital artery in the beating heart of Victorian Britain. Your uniform, heavy and wool, is a symbol of trust and authority. People see you coming and their faces light up with anticipation or occasionally a faint tremor of dread. Every letter you carry holds a story, a birth announcement, a death notice, a love letter, a bill, a job offer. You are the physical manifestation of news, good and bad. The post office as you know it, with its predictable deliveries and reliable stamps, is a relatively new invention. For centuries, mail was a haphazard affair, a patchwork of private messengers, royal couriers, and unreliable stagecoaches. It was expensive, slow, and largely inaccessible to the common person. But then came the great reformer, Sir Rowland Hill, a man who looked at the system and saw chaos. His solution was revolutionary: the uniform penny post. Before this, the cost of sending a letter was based on the distance it traveled and the number of sheets of paper inside. The recipient, not the sender, often paid the fee. Imagine the confusion, the arguments on doorsteps, the sheer absurdity of it all. Hill's idea was simple and brilliant: a single prepaid rate of 1 penny, regardless of the distance. This was a radical democratization of information. Suddenly, a factory worker in Manchester could afford to write to his sister in London. A farmer in Scotland could send news to his son serving in the army. The entire social fabric began to knit closer together. To make this system work, a new tool was needed, something to prove that the penny had been paid. The solution, which you now hold in your hand, is a small, rectangular piece of paper with an adhesive back. On it, a familiar profile of Queen Victoria looks back at you. It is the world's first adhesive postage stamp, the penny black. Historians still argue whether the penny black's invention was a simple logistical necessity or a deliberate tool of social change. Whatever the case, its introduction on May 6, 1840, was a watershed moment. It transformed the post office from a cumbersome state service into a public utility, a powerful engine of communication that touched every corner of the empire. You, as a postman, are on the front lines of this revolution. You are a walking, talking symbol of a more connected, more literate society. The sheer volume of mail you now handle is staggering. Before the penny post, the country sent about 76 million letters a year. By 1850, that number had skyrocketed to over 347 million. The infrastructure, the sorting offices, the trains, and you, the postman, had to expand at an astonishing rate to keep up. You trudged down a narrow, fog-shrouded street, your boots echoing on the pavement. You pull a letter from your bag, and your eyes, trained by years of repetition, scan the address. The name is familiar. But you notice something else, something only you and your fellow postmen would see. A small, almost invisible mark in the corner of the envelope. A tiny pencil line. This is the secret language, the code of the postman. It is not an official system, but a kind of shorthand that developed organically, a way to convey information about the recipient without a single word. A small V might mean they are a vegetarian, useful for a postman who also delivers parcels of meat. An X might mean unpleasant, a person known for being rude or difficult. A little squiggle could indicate a dog on the premises, a warning to be wary of an animal. These aren't documented in any official GPO manual. They are the unwritten rules of the street, passed down from one postman to another. It's a quirky tidbit of history that reveals how postmen, much like neighborhood watch groups today, were the unofficial keepers of a community's hidden knowledge. You know who's behind on their rent, who's having a secret affair, and who's expecting a parcel from a distant family member. The letter you hold now has no such mark, and as you slide it through the letterbox, you think about the story it contains, a story you will never know, but one you have helped deliver. You continue your route, the rhythm of your walk a familiar comfort. The sun, a pale watery disk, finally breaks through the persistent London fog, illuminating the grimy brickwork of the terraced houses. The secret language of the postmen is a fascinating little corner of history, a testament to the informal networks that pop up in every profession. But it's not the only code you and your fellow postmen deal with. The official one, the one that governs your every movement, is the pencil mark system, and it's a brilliant piece of logistical engineering. It's not about the recipient's personal habits. It's about your workflow. Every letter, when it arrives at the sorting office, is subjected to a quick, almost unconscious scrutiny. A sorter, with an incredible flick of the wrist, marks it. A small dash, a curve, a number. Each one tells a story about the letter's journey. A line drawn vertically in the upper right corner means the letter is intended for a street on your right-hand side. A horizontal line across the top, a letter for the left side. A diagonal slash might mean a specific block of houses. These marks are your breadcrumbs, guiding you through the labyrinthine streets. They are a kind of primitive GPS, long before satellites or digital maps. Without them, you'd be lost, endlessly crisscrossing the street, wasting precious time. This system was an unspoken art, passed down from senior postmen to rookies. It was a visual aid to a massive memory palace you had to build in your head, mapping out dozens of streets and hundreds of addresses. You know, without thinking, which letter goes to the baker, which to the tailor, and which to the lady who always offers you a cup of lukewarm tea. Historians still argue whether this system was officially sanctioned by the GPO, or if it simply evolved out of necessity. It was so effective, however, that it became a standard part of the job, a quiet, efficient language that made the difference between a quick, seamless delivery route and a frustrating, disorganized mess. It allowed you to walk your route with a sense of purpose and speed, pulling letters from your bag in a predetermined order, like a magician pulling cards from a shuffled deck. But your day isn't just about walking and delivering. The morning begins much earlier, in the chilly, chaotic hub of the sorting office. You arrive before dawn, the air thick with the smell of paper, ink, and damp wool. The office is a hive of activity, a constant low roar of men sorting, stamping, and tying bundles of mail. The letters which have arrived by train, carriage, or even on foot are piled high on long tables. Your first task is to sort your own route. You stand before a massive wooden rack, a dozen or more pigeonholes, each one representing a street or a portion of your route. You take your allocated pile of mail and begin the monotonous, rhythmic process of sorting. Your hands fly, a blur of motion, as you categorize each letter, placing it into its correct slot. It's a mindless task, but it requires a kind of meditative focus. You can feel the shape of the letters, the quality of the paper, almost sensing the stories they hold. And there are always strange ones. The odd, lumpy parcel. The letter with a single bizarre word for an address, which you know from experience, is meant for a specific eccentric on your route. The postcard with a faded, almost illegible message from a distant shore. This is the quirky tidbit you love. A postman in the late 19th century once received a letter addressed simply to the man who lives in the little house with the blue door and has 3 cats. It seems impossible, but the postman knew exactly who it was, and the letter was delivered without a hitch. It's a beautiful illustration of how personal and localized the postal service was. You weren't just a cog in a machine. You were a vital part of the community. You were an encyclopedia of local knowledge, a walking directory of addresses, and a trusted familiar face. People would stop you on the street to ask for directions, to pass on a message to a neighbor, or just to exchange a few words of gossip. You were the link between the inner world of the household and the sprawling, interconnected world of the city and the empire beyond. As you finish sorting your bag, you tie the bundles with string and secure them into your satchel. The weight is considerable, and you adjust the strap on your shoulder, knowing it will get lighter with every house you pass. The final step is to collect the official metal hand stamp and a small box of red ink. Every letter, before it leaves the office, must be stamped with a postmark that shows the date and the office of origin. It's a simple, manual process, a satisfying thud and press that gives the letter its official stamp of approval. And as you step out of the office and onto your route, you are no longer just a sorter. You are a messenger of the Queen, a crucial part of the engine of commerce and connection, carrying the stories of a nation, one letter at a time. The world of sorting offices, pencil marks, and daily trudges is your stage, and your performance has just begun. Your feet carry you past the grand houses of the wealthy, their polished brass letterboxes winking at you in the pale sunlight. A postman's route, you're learning, is a cross-section of society. You deliver to the lords and ladies in their townhouses, their envelopes thick with expensive paper and sealed with wax. You also deliver to the crowded tenements, where a single letter might be shared among a dozen people, its contents read aloud by a literate neighbor. The postman is a silent witness to all of it, the good and the bad. The quiet, relentless foot-slogging is the physical core of your job, but it's the human element that makes it truly interesting. You are not just a delivery person. You are a trusted institution. This trust is built on a foundation of reliability and consistency. You are expected to be on time, every single day, rain or shine. In an era without cars or motorbikes, your legs are your most important tool. A postman in the Victorian era could walk an average of 15 to 20 miles a day, a distance that would have modern-day fitness trackers screaming in protest. The sheer physical endurance required for the job was immense. You are a human machine, powered by bread, beer, and a deep sense of duty. Your uniform is heavy, your satchel, when full, is a considerable burden, and the weather is a constant adversary. Yet you persevere. You know the exact location of every single letterbox on your route, the tricky latch on the gate, the one-eyed cat that always tries to trip you up. The introduction of the penny black was, as we've discussed, a game changer. But what about the stamps themselves? This is where a quirky tidbit comes in. The very first stamps had no perforations. You had to cut them apart with scissors or a knife. Can you imagine? 1 million postal workers and civilians hunched over their envelopes, carefully snipping apart a sheet of stamps. This was a logistical nightmare. The solution, an innovation so simple it feels obvious in retrospect, was invented by Henry Archer, a postal employee. He proposed perforating the stamps with tiny holes so they could be easily torn apart. The first perforated stamps were issued in 1854, and while the idea seems simple, it was a massive leap forward in efficiency. This little detail, the tiny holes you now take for granted, saved millions of hours of labor and made the process of mailing a letter infinitely easier for everyone. Historians still argue whether the original lack of perforations was an oversight or a deliberate cost-saving measure. Whatever the case, it speaks to how quickly the GPO had to innovate to keep up with the overwhelming demand. As you approach a new street, your eyes scan for a landmark, a gas lamp, a distinctive shop front, anything to confirm your location. The mental map you carry is constantly being updated. You know which houses have a lodger who gets mail, and you know which ones are empty. You are a walking census, a quiet observer of the ebb and flow of a community. Sometimes you'll see the same person at the window, day after day, waiting for a letter. You can feel the weight of their anticipation, the hope they have invested in a piece of paper, and you understand that what you carry is more than just mail. It's a tangible link to a world beyond their front door. It's the promise of a job, the pain of a loss, the joy of a new grandchild. You are the keeper of these secrets, the silent messenger who connects lives. And sometimes that connection is a literal lifesaver. A mainstream historical fact you often hear about is the postman's role during a crisis. During the cholera epidemics that periodically swept through London, the postman was a vital link to the outside world. They carried messages of health and sickness, delivered money to families who had lost their breadwinners, and often acted as a source of reliable information in a time of fear and misinformation. They were one of the few public figures who would still enter a quarantined house, their uniform a symbol of their duty and a quiet reassurance to those trapped inside. They were, in many ways, the uncelebrated heroes of the Victorian street, their courage and dedication often going unnoticed by the history books. You feel a sense of pride as you think about this. Your job is more than just a job. It is a public service, a quiet but essential pillar of the society you live in. You are not a king or a queen, but in a small way, you hold the power of communication in your hands. And with every letter you deliver, you are helping to write the story of a nation. The journey continues, one step at a time, one letter at a time. The urban landscape of your route shifts. You're leaving the grand townhouses behind and heading into the heart of commerce. The streets are narrower, and the air is thick with the smells of industry. Coal smoke, roasting coffee, and the faint, sweet scent of a confectioner's shop. This is the marketplace, a different kind of post office, a hub of face-to-face communication, but one that still relies on your crucial deliveries. You pass a fishmonger loudly hawking his wares, a street vendor selling fresh flowers, and a group of dock workers on their lunch break, their voices a low rumble. For them, a letter isn't a social courtesy. It's often a business transaction, an invoice, a shipping manifest, a receipt for goods. You're the physical manifestation of the Victorian economy, a walking conduit for the flow of money and goods. And yet, despite all this official business, gossip is a commodity as valuable as any pound of tea. The local grocer, the butcher, the man who repairs shoes, they all know you, and they all have a question. Any word from my cousin in Manchester? Has that parcel arrived for the tailor on the corner? You are a trusted source of information, a walking newspaper. You can, with a slight tilt of your head or a knowing look, convey more information than a written letter. This is a quirky tidbit of your job, the unofficial, whispered communication that happens on the street. It's the kind of information that historians don't write about, but it's the glue that holds a community together. The postman's knowledge of who is sick, who is in love, and who has gone away is a form of social currency, and you trade in it carefully, always with discretion. You are a silent, moving repository of local lore. The grand official story of the post office is one of efficiency and innovation, but the lived experience is full of these small, human moments. The system, for all its meticulous planning and massive scale, still relies on individual knowledge and personal relationships. It's a mainstream historical fact that the GPO's success was due not just to Roland Hill's brilliant ideas, but to the thousands of postmen like you who made the system work on the ground, in the muddy reality of the streets. The postman wasn't a faceless drone. He was a character, a local celebrity in his own way. He knew the rhythms of the neighborhood, the best shortcuts through alleyways, and the families who would always greet him with a smile. Historians still argue whether the post office's cultural impact was a result of its top-down structure or its bottom-up community-based implementation. It was probably a little bit of both. But let's talk about a specific kind of letter you carry, one that speaks to a very Victorian obsession, the Valentine card. In an era where public displays of affection were frowned upon, the Valentine was a rare opportunity for coded messages of love. The sheer volume of these cards that would pass through your hands in February was staggering. The GPO was swamped every year, so much so that they had to hire extra staff just to deal with the influx. These cards ranged from the simple and sweet to the elaborate multi-layered constructions with intricate lace and embossed paper. And here's the thing, a lot of them were anonymous. This created a new kind of social anxiety and intrigue. Who was the secret admirer? Was the card a sincere expression of love or a cruel joke? You, the postman, were a crucial part of this romantic ritual. You delivered the missives, and while you didn't know the contents, you could feel the weight of their emotional significance. You reach a small cul-de-sac and pull a letter from your bag. It's a plain envelope, but the handwriting is elegant and unfamiliar. A small, almost invisible mark on the corner tells you it's for a family that has recently moved in. The pencil mark, remember? A new family means you need to update your mental map, add new data to your internal network. You slide the letter through the slot, hear it thud on the floor, and imagine the person who will pick it up. a new life beginning, a new story unfolding. You are the first to connect them to their new community, a subtle but powerful act. You are the first thread in their new social fabric. The journey continues, one block at a time, your satchel a little lighter, your mind a little fuller with the unspoken stories of the city. Your journey through the city continues, a blur of motion and purpose. You've delivered to the wealthy, the merchants, and the working class, and now your path leads you to a new kind of destination, the home of a celebrated author. The address is well known, and the letter in your hand is from a publisher, the kind of correspondence that could be the start of a new literary masterpiece. The postman's job is a direct line to history in the making. You are, in a very real sense, a small part of the creative process. The author waits for your knock, their work in progress on their desk, their mind racing with possibilities. And you, the humble postman, are the one who delivers the next chapter of their life, the news of a new book deal or a critical review. It's a strange and quiet power you hold, this ability to deliver a message that can change a person's life, a family's fortunes, or even the course of literary history. The Victorian era was a time of immense social and technological change, and the post office was at the very heart of it. Think about the telegram. This new technology was seen as a rival, a lightning-fast alternative to the slow and steady reliability of the letter. The post office acquired the telegraph service in 1870, recognizing that to stay relevant, it had to embrace new forms of communication. For a time, you would still deliver telegrams, a small piece of paper with a sharp, concise message, often signaling something urgent, a birth, a death, a business deal. The telegram was the Twitter of its day, a short, sharp burst of information. This is a mainstream historical fact that highlights the post office's adaptability. It wasn't a static institution. It was a dynamic one, constantly evolving to meet the demands of a rapidly modernizing society. It wasn't just about delivering mail. It was about connecting the entire country at the speed of the day. But let's not forget the quirkier side of the postal service. Did you know that in the early days, you could send a child through the mail? Not in a box, mind you, but as a passenger on a mail coach. It sounds utterly bizarre, but in an era before widespread public transport, it was a practical, if slightly unhinged, way to get a child from one town to another. A person, usually a postman, would accompany the child on the mail coach, ensuring they arrived safely at their destination. This quirky tidbit of history speaks to the level of trust placed in the Postal Service and its employees. Historians still debate whether this was a common practice or an apocryphal tale, but the fact that it was even considered shows the immense and almost limitless faith the public had in the post office as a reliable, if unconventional, means of transport and communication. As you continue on your route, you come to a large, imposing building, the local hospital. You have a stack of letters for the patients and staff. A letter to a sick person is a very different kind of delivery. It's a lifeline to the outside world, a tangible piece of love and concern from a worried family. You know from experience which wards these letters go to. And you feel a quiet sense of purpose as you hand them over to a nurse. You are the bearer of hope and comfort. You pass by a small cottage and deliver a letter that you know is a final notice for an unpaid bill. You don't have to know the contents of the letter to feel its weight. You can see it in the way the person's face falls when they see the official seal. The postman is a silent witness to the daily dramas of life, the small victories and defeats that make up the human experience. The grand, overarching narrative of the post office is one of progress and efficiency. But the story of the individual postman is one of simple, physical labor. Your day is filled with the repetitive tasks that make the whole system work: sorting, walking, delivering, collecting. It's a rhythm that becomes part of you. The weight of the satchel, the feel of the paper, the sound of the letter dropping through the slot. These are the small sensory details that make up your working life. The job can be lonely, a solitary journey through the streets, but it is also one of connection. You are the link between people, the thread that ties a society together. You are a silent, tireless force, a physical representation of the desire for human connection. The journey continues. One more street, one more letter, one more story to deliver. The rhythm of your daily walk is a kind of music, a steady beat against the ever-changing backdrop of the city. You pass the same faces, see the same children playing in the streets, and exchange the same nods of recognition. This is the heart of your work, the routine. It's the constant that a chaotic world relies on. But your route isn't just a simple line from A to B. It is a complex puzzle, a physical manifestation of a city's social structure. You know which streets have steep hills, which alleys are shortcuts, and which houses have a particularly noisy dog. This intimate, on-the-ground knowledge is something no map can provide. Your bag is a testament to this complexity. It holds the mundane and the extraordinary side by side. A bill for the grocer, a wedding invitation for a wealthy family, a letter from a son fighting in a distant war. They are all just pieces of paper to the outside world, but to you, they are a physical archive of human stories. And you, the postman, are the one who gets to hold them, however briefly, before they continue on their journey. It's a quiet honor, a responsibility that is rarely celebrated but is felt every day. The weight of the bag on your shoulder is both physical and symbolic. Let's delve into a fascinating piece of postal history, a mainstream historical fact that demonstrates the sheer scale of the Victorian postal network. The traveling post office, das TPO, was a revolutionary concept that began in the 1830s. These were railway carriages, specially designed and fitted out as mobile sorting offices. As the train hurtled across the country, postmen inside would sort the mail, literally processing letters while in motion. Imagine it. You're speeding from London to Edinburgh, and you're not just a passenger, but an active participant in the country's communication network. A special device, a kind of net, would even allow mail to be dropped off and picked up from stations without the train having to stop. This was a marvel of engineering and logistics, turning the postal network into a dynamic 24/7 operation. The TPO transformed mail delivery from a slow, methodical process into a rapid cross-country flow. And speaking of clever systems, there's a quirky tidbit you might not know. The post office had a system for dealing with illiterate people. If a person couldn't read the address on their letter, they could take it to a post office, and a clerk would read the address and write it down for them. But what if the person couldn't even tell the clerk where the letter was going? This is where the postman's local knowledge came in. You would often be the one to recognize the handwriting of a family member from a distant town and instinctively know who the letter was for, even if the address was just a scrawled name. This unofficial system was a vital part of the postal service, a human touch that complemented the official bureaucracy. Historians still argue whether this kind of informal ad hoc system was a sign of the GPO's flexibility, or a glaring gap in its official procedures. Whatever the case, it speaks to the intimate connection between the post office and the people it served. You are approaching a rural section of your route, where the houses are spaced further apart and the air is filled with the smell of wet earth and livestock. Here, your job is a little different. You are not just a delivery person. You are a social hub. You are often the only person a lonely farmer or a reclusive widow will see all day. Your brief chat at the gate is a connection to the outside world. This is a crucial, if often unstated, part of your job. The postman is a vital part of the rural community, a trusted source of news, and a familiar face in an often solitary life. You are, in a very real sense, a lifeline. The journey continues, your satchel lighter now, but the weight of your responsibility still very much present. You are more than a mail carrier. You are a quiet, dependable force in a changing world. You're out of the city now, the dusty roads replaced by winding country lanes. The grand brick houses have given way to thatched cottages and isolated farmhouses. This is a different kind of route, less about volume and more about distance. The miles between deliveries are long, and you feel the solitude of the countryside. But even here, in this quiet, pastoral setting, the post office is a vital force. Your uniform, a symbol of urban efficiency, takes on a new meaning here. It represents the link to the world beyond the village, the connection to family members who have moved to the city or even abroad. You are the physical embodiment of the empire, a quiet ambassador from the bustling heart of Britain to its quiet rural corners. The life of a rural postman is a solitary one, but it is also one of immense importance. You carry a satchel that contains not just letters, but the very lifeline of a community. You are the first to know about a new birth, a death, or a family crisis. You are a repository of local knowledge, a walking encyclopedia of a village's triumphs and tragedies. And because you are a familiar face, a trusted presence, you are often the first to be told a secret, the first to be asked for a favor. A quick, whispered message to a neighbor, a note to the local doctor. These are not part of your official duties, but they are a vital part of your job. This is a quirky tidbit of your job, the informal role you play as a community's unofficial communication hub. The official rules of the GPO are rigid and precise, but the reality of the job on the ground is much more fluid, much more human. Let's not forget the incredible innovation that made your journey possible. The bicycle. This might seem like a simple piece of technology today, but its introduction in the late 19th century was a revolution for the rural postman. Before the bicycle, your only mode of transport was your own 2 feet and a horse or cart if you were lucky. The bicycle allowed you to cover vast distances with an efficiency and speed that was previously unimaginable. It transformed your route from a grueling all-day trudge into a manageable journey. It was a simple machine that had a profound impact on the physical demands of your job, and it's a mainstream historical fact that the post office was one of the first major institutions to adopt the bicycle on a large scale, recognizing its immense potential for improving efficiency. The sight of a postman on a bicycle, his satchel bouncing behind him, became a familiar and reassuring image across the country. Historians still argue whether the bicycle's adoption was driven by cost-saving measures or a genuine desire to improve the working conditions of the postmen. It was probably a combination of both. You stop at a small isolated cottage and slide a letter through the slot. You can hear the faint, high-pitched whimper of a dog. You know this dog. Its name is Bess. It's a good dog, but a little timid. The dog's owner, a reclusive old woman, always waits for you at the window. She rarely gets mail, but when she does, it's a highlight of her day. You give a little wave, a silent acknowledgement, and continue on your way. You are a small but significant part of her daily life, a quiet link to a world she no longer inhabits. Your uniform, heavy and wool, is a symbol of this connection. It is not just a uniform. It is a sign of trust, a mark of a reliable institution. In an era before credit cards and online banking, you were the trusted courier of money orders and valuable documents. The public's trust in you was absolute. You were a walking bank, a mobile library, and a community bulletin board all rolled into one. Your job was a public service in the truest sense of the word, a quiet, dependable force that held a society together. The journey continues. The sun is higher in the sky now, and your bag is much lighter, but the sense of purpose is as heavy as ever. You are a postman, a purveyor of stories, a quiet hero of the Victorian age. The sun is beginning its slow descent, casting long shadows across the fields and farmhouses. Your satchel, nearly empty now, feels like a feather on your shoulder. You've delivered the good news and the bad, the official notices and the personal messages. You've been the quiet force that connects a fragmented landscape. But your job, like all things, is subject to change. The technology that once made your job easier, the railway, the bicycle, is about to face its next great rival, the telephone. It's a new, almost magical device that promises to deliver messages instantly without the need for a physical letter or a walking postman. It's the ultimate disruption, and you can feel its potential on the horizon, a distant hum of static and possibility. The GPO, ever the innovator, saw the potential and the threat. In 1878, it took control of the telephone service in the UK, much like it had with the telegraph. For a time, you might have even had to deliver messages that were dictated over the phone and then transcribed onto a piece of paper. This is a mainstream historical fact that highlights the post office's role as the central nervous system of a nation's communication. It was not just a delivery service. It was the entire infrastructure of connection, from the written word to the spoken one. Historians still argue whether the GPO's acquisition of the telephone was a forward-thinking business move or a desperate attempt to protect its monopoly. It was likely a bit of both. The post office was a sprawling, powerful organization, and it had to adapt or die. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. For now, the job is still about the physical act of delivery. And with that comes the strange, often humorous world of unclaimed letters. The dead letter office, a real place, was where mail that couldn't be delivered for any reason, a smudged address, a non-existent recipient, a bizarre, indecipherable scribble, would end up. Imagine the things that passed through this office. Love letters to phantom lovers, money orders to people who had long since died, and parcels containing everything from live canaries to bottles of homemade liqueur. This is a quirky tidbit of postal history, a fascinating glimpse into the human desire to communicate, even when the recipient is a mystery. The clerks in the dead letter office were part detective, part archivist, and they would often have to open the letters to figure out their intended destination. It was a strange, silent world, full of secrets and unfinished stories. You are walking past a small schoolhouse, and you have a handful of letters for the teacher. A letter to a child is a very special kind of delivery. It's often from a parent working far away, or a grandparent sending a small gift. You know from experience the joy a letter can bring to a child's face, the sense of wonder that someone somewhere thought of them. The postman is the bearer of these small miracles, and it's a part of the job that you cherish. You are a tangible link to a world beyond the classroom, a reminder that the world is a big, connected place. The post office, in its grand official capacity, was a massive bureaucracy. But on the ground, on your route, it was a deeply human enterprise. You knew the people on your route by name, not by address. You knew their stories, not their account numbers. You were a part of the community, a trusted friend, a reliable source of information. The official history books tell the story of Rowland Hill, the Penny Black, and the Telegraph. But the real story is in the details, in the quiet, day-to-day work of the men and women who walked the streets and delivered the mail. It is in the small, handwritten notes on the envelopes, the whispered conversations on the doorstep, and the familiar rhythm of your footsteps. The journey continues. One more street, one more story, one more connection to be made. The Victorian era is one of grand pronouncements and big ideas, but you know that the true story is in the details, in the quiet hum of a massive system working in unison. You're on the final stretch of your day, the sun a distant memory, and the streetlights casting long, dancing shadows on the pavement. The city is a different beast at night, full of secrets and hushed conversations. But for you, the work is the same. The rhythm of your feet, the feel of the satchel, it's all muscle memory now. You pass by a lamplighter, a man with a long pole reaching up to ignite the gas lamps, a human link in the city's nocturnal life. You are both quiet, essential cogs in the urban machine. Let's talk about another massive cog in this machine, the mail trains. This is a mainstream historical fact, a piece of infrastructure that revolutionized your job. The traveling post office, TPO, we mentioned earlier, was just the beginning. The railways were the internet of the Victorian age, a high-speed network that connected the entire country. Mail trains, specially designed to carry vast quantities of mail, thundered across the landscape, their carriages filled with sorters and clerks working through the night. You, as a postman, were a vital part of this system. Your job wasn't just to deliver, it was to feed the network. You would collect mail from your route and deliver it to the local sorting office, which in turn would send it to the railway station to be sorted on the TPO. The entire system was a beautiful, complex dance of efficiency and speed, a testament to Victorian ingenuity. The sheer logistics of it are breathtaking. Historians still argue whether the railway's impact on mail delivery was a product of the GPO's forward thinking or a necessary response to an unmanageable volume of letters. And speaking of volume, there's a quirky tidbit about a very specific kind of mail: Christmas cards. The tradition of sending Christmas cards became incredibly popular in the Victorian era, and the sheer number of them caused a logistical nightmare for the post office. The GPO had to hire hundreds of extra staff every December just to handle the influx. Postmen like you would work extra hours, their satchels bursting at the seams with festive cheer. It was a time of immense pressure, but also a time of great community spirit. You would see the same card designs, the familiar snow scenes and robins, and feel a sense of shared tradition. The Christmas card was a symbol of a society that was more connected than ever, a tangible manifestation of a shared culture. The post office, in its official capacity, was a massive bureaucracy, but on the ground, on your route, it was a deeply human enterprise. You knew the people on your route by name, not by address. You knew their stories, not their account numbers. You were a part of the community, a trusted friend, a reliable source of information. The official history books tell the story of Rowland Hill, the Penny Black, and the Telegraph. But the real story is in the details, in the quiet, day-to-day work of the men and women who walked the streets and delivered the mail. It is in the small, handwritten notes on the envelopes, the whispered conversations on the doorstep, and the familiar rhythm of your footsteps. The journey continues, one more street, one more story, one more connection to be made. Your job isn't just about delivering mail. It's about being a vital part of the urban fabric. You are a walking witness to a city's life, a silent observer of its triumphs and tragedies. You see the subtle changes in a neighborhood, a new shop opening, a family moving away, a house that seems a little too quiet. You are the one who notices these things, the small details that make up the story of a community. The post office is a massive, impersonal machine, but you, the postman, are its human face. You are the one who brings a piece of the world to a person's doorstep, the one who connects a distant family, a far-flung friend, or a business associate. And in doing so, you are a vital part of the engine of progress, the quiet, dependable force that holds a society together. The streetlights flicker. A horse-drawn cab clatters past, and you continue on your way, your satchel a little lighter, your mind a little fuller, with the unspoken stories of the city. Your day is winding down, but the city isn't. The gas lamps are fully alight now, and the windows of the houses glow with a warm, inviting light. You are a ghost moving through the streets, a silent observer of a city at rest. The post office, however, never truly sleeps. The night is when the real sorting begins, when the mail from all corners of the empire converges in massive sorting offices, ready to be sent back out into the world with the morning light. You know this because you are part of it, the small, vital part that gathers the mail from the street and brings it into the system. Let's talk about another piece of the puzzle, a crucial, if often overlooked, part of the postal network: the pillar box. Before these iconic red boxes became a familiar sight on every street corner, mail was collected at post offices or from a postman directly. The pillar box, a concept adopted from France, was a simple but brilliant idea. It allowed people to mail letters at any time of day or night, without having to find a post office. The first pillar box was installed in Jersey in 1852, and the idea quickly spread to the mainland. This is a mainstream historical fact that highlights the post office's commitment to public convenience. It was a physical manifestation of the GPO's desire to make communication as easy and accessible as possible. The pillar box was a small, quiet revolution, a way of bringing the post office to the people, rather than forcing the people to come to the post office. But let's not forget the quirkier side of mail. Did you know that you could send a letter without a stamp as long as it was a certain kind of official business? This was a holdover from the days before the penny black, and it was called franking. It was a way for certain government officials, and even some members of the clergy, to send mail for free. This created a lot of abuse, as people would forge franking marks to send their own mail for free. It's a small, almost forgotten detail of postal history, but it speaks to the constant struggle between efficiency and bureaucracy, between the official rules and the human desire to bend them. Historians still argue whether the practice of franking was a necessary part of government communication or a symbol of a privileged elite clinging to a bygone era. It was likely a bit of both. As you turn onto your final street, You pull a handful of letters from your bag. One is a thick, official-looking envelope for a lawyer. Another is a thin, handwritten note for a young couple. A third is a small parcel, lumpy and oddly shaped, for the local cobbler. You don't know the contents, but you can feel their weight, their importance. The lawyer's letter could be a notice of a lawsuit or an inheritance. The couple's note could be from a worried parent or a congratulatory friend. The cobbler's parcel could be a new tool or a spare part. You are the silent bearer of these possibilities, the one who delivers the next chapter of their lives. Your job is more than just a job. It is a public trust, a quiet service that holds a society together. In an age of rapid change, the postman is a constant, a symbol of reliability and dependability. You are the one who delivers the news, good and bad. You are the one who connects families, friends, and businesses. And in a world that is becoming more and more connected, you are the physical manifestation of that connection, the quiet, dependable force that makes it all work. The streetlights flicker, a horse-drawn cab clatters past, and you continue on your way, your satchel a little lighter, your mind a little fuller with the unspoken stories of the city. The journey continues, one last street, one last delivery, one last step in a long, quiet day of service. The clock on a nearby church tower chimes, a deep, resonant sound that marks the end of your shift. You're back at the sorting office now, the air thick with the smell of ink and damp paper. The day's journey, a long loop through the city and the countryside, has come to a close. Your satchel is empty, the weight of the mail now replaced by the weight of fatigue. But even in this final act of the day, there is a sense of purpose. You are not just returning to a building. You are returning to the heart of the machine, ready to be a part of the next day's cycle. You drop the small bag of collected letters into a large sack, and it joins thousands of others, all converging on this central hub. The post office was more than a service. It was a powerful economic engine. This is a mainstream historical fact that is often overlooked. The money order system, for example, was a critical part of the Victorian economy. Before widespread banking, how did a son in London send money to his mother in the countryside? He went to the post office and bought a money order. It was a simple paper document that could be redeemed for cash at any other post office. It was a secure, reliable way to transfer money across vast distances, and it was a vital lifeline for countless families. The GPO's role as a financial institution was a testament to its immense power and reach. It was a bank for the common person, a trusted repository of funds in a world that was still largely cash-based. Historians still argue whether the post office's financial services were a deliberate attempt to compete with private banks or a natural evolution of its public service mission. And let's talk about a quirky tidbit of your daily life as a postman. The uniform itself was a source of pride and sometimes of resentment. The GPO, wanting to present a unified and professional image, had a very strict dress code. The postman's uniform was heavy, wool, and often uncomfortable, but it was also a symbol of trust and authority. People respected the uniform. They knew that the man wearing it was reliable, dependable, and a servant of the Queen. But the uniform was also a physical reminder of your place in the social hierarchy. You were a public servant, not a gentleman, and the uniform marked you as such. It was a kind of visual shorthand, a way for people to instantly know who you were and what you represented. You think about your own uniform, the way it feels on your body, the way it becomes a part of your identity. It's a physical manifestation of your duty, a quiet symbol of the public trust you carry. The GPO was a massive, impersonal machine, but you, the postman, were its human face. You were the one who brought a piece of the world to a person's doorstep, the one who connected a distant family, a far-flung friend, or a business associate. And in doing so, you were a vital part of the engine of progress, the quiet, dependable force that holds a society together. The streetlights flicker, a horse-drawn cab clatters past, and you continue on your way, your satchel a little lighter, your mind a little fuller with the unspoken stories of the city. The sheer scale of the Victorian postal network is hard to comprehend. It was a web of people, trains, horses, and buildings that stretched across an empire. From a small village in the Scottish Highlands to the bustling streets of London, the system was a constant, low hum of activity. You, the postman, were a small but vital part of that hum. You were the final link in the chain, the one who took the sorted mail from the central hub and delivered it to its final destination. And with every letter you delivered, you were helping to write the story of a nation, one quiet step at a time. The journey continues. One last street, one last delivery, one last step in a long, quiet day of service. The journey is almost over for the day, and you are feeling the familiar ache in your legs and the welcome lightness of your satchel. The city is a different beast now, quieter, more reflective. You see the warm glow of a pub, hear the faint murmur of conversation and laughter. You are an outsider to these places, a man of the street, but you are also the quiet force that connects them. The pub owner relies on you for his invoices and his notices of new shipments of ale. The patrons rely on you to deliver the letters that bring them news from family and friends. You are a ghost moving through their world, but you are a vital one. Let's talk about a crucial, if often overlooked, part of the postal service, the postwomen. This is a mainstream historical fact that challenges the traditional view of the postman's job as a strictly male profession. While the vast majority of postmen were men, women began to take on roles as rural sub-postmistresses and later as delivery agents, particularly during times of war or national crisis. They often faced immense prejudice and were paid less than their male counterparts, but their work was essential. They would walk the same long, solitary routes, carrying the same heavy satchels, and their dedication was just as unwavering. Their stories are a testament to the quiet strength and resilience of women in the Victorian era, who were often forced to work in professions that were considered unsuitable for their gender. Historians still argue whether the GPO's decision to employ women was a progressive step towards gender equality or a pragmatic response to labor shortages. It was likely a bit of both. And speaking of women, let's talk about a quirky tidbit related to their fashion. In the late 19th century, a strange trend emerged, using postage stamps as a form of communication. A young woman would place a stamp on her envelope in a specific orientation to send a secret message to her suitor. A stamp placed upside down might mean, "I love you." A stamp placed on the left-hand corner might mean, "My heart belongs to another." It was a secret language, a kind of pre-digital texting that allowed young lovers to communicate without the prying eyes of their parents or the rest of society. It's a fascinating and almost charming detail that speaks to the human need for coded communication, a desire that existed long before the internet or mobile phones. It's a beautiful example of how people will always find a way to express themselves, even within the confines of a rigid and formal society. You pass by a large, ornate building, the local post office headquarters. It's a place of immense power and authority, the nerve center of the entire network. But you know that the real work is done on the streets, in the villages, and on the long, lonely roads. It's done by people like you, who walk the miles, who carry the weight of a nation's communication on their shoulders. You are a part of a massive, intricate machine, but you are also its human heart. You are the one who knows the people on your route, who understands their stories, who brings a piece of the world to their doorstep. The journey continues, one last street, one last delivery, one last step in a long, quiet day of service. The sheer scale of the Victorian postal network is hard to comprehend. It was a web of people, trains, horses, and buildings that stretched across an empire. From a small village in the Scottish Highlands to the bustling streets of London, the system was a constant low hum of activity. You, the postman, were a small but vital part of that hum. You were the final link in the chain, the one who took the sorted mail from the central hub and delivered it to its final destination. And with every letter you delivered, you were helping to write the story of a nation, one quiet step at a time. The streetlights flicker, a horse-drawn cab clatters past, and you continue on your way, your satchel a little lighter, your mind a little fuller with the unspoken stories of the city. The city is settling into its nocturnal rhythm, and you are a part of that quiet, final act of the day. You've delivered to the rich and the poor, the young and the old. You've seen the full spectrum of human life in a single day, and you've been a vital part of all of it. Your job is more than just a job. It's a public trust, a quiet service that holds a society together. In an age of rapid change, the postman is a constant, a symbol of reliability and dependability. You are the one who delivers the news, good and bad. You are the one who connects families, friends, and businesses. And in a world that is becoming more and more connected, you are the physical manifestation of that connection, the quiet, dependable force that makes it all work. Let's talk about a major innovation that changed your job and the entire postal service forever: the Post Office Savings Bank. This is a mainstream historical fact that demonstrates the GPO's immense power and reach. In 1861, the post office was authorized to establish a savings bank. This was a revolutionary idea. It allowed working-class people who were often excluded from traditional banks to open a savings account with a small deposit. The Post Office Savings Bank was a safe, reliable, and convenient place for people to save their money. It was a vital tool for financial inclusion, and it helped millions of people to save for their future, to buy a home, or to provide for their families. The bank's success was a testament to the public's trust in the post office. They trusted the postman who came to their door every day, and they trusted the institution he represented. Historians still argue whether the Post Office Savings Bank was a deliberate act of social reform or a pragmatic business decision to expand the GPO's services. And let's talk about a quirky tidbit that is almost too strange to be true. In the late 19th century, the post office was used for a very peculiar purpose: to deliver pigeons. That's right, live pigeons. Homing pigeons were often used to carry messages, and if you needed to send a pigeon from one place to another, you could do it through the mail. The pigeon would be placed in a special ventilated box, and it would be sent via mail train to its destination, where it would be released with a message attached to its leg. It's a bizarre and charming example of how the Postal Service adapted to the needs of a pre-digital world. It was a kind of primitive drone delivery service, long before drones even existed. It speaks to the ingenuity and adaptability of the GPO, and to the sheer trust the public had in its ability to deliver almost anything, no matter how strange. You are walking past a small, quiet park, and you have a handful of letters for the people who live on the other side. A letter for a young boy with a stamp of a faraway place. A letter for an elderly woman from a family member she hasn't seen in years. A letter for a soldier's wife, her face a mask of worry as she waits for news. You are the one who delivers these moments, who brings the distant world to their doorstep. You are a silent witness to their hopes and fears. Your job is to deliver, but you are also a silent participant in the human story. The journey continues. One last street, one last delivery, one last step in a long, quiet day of service. The sheer scale of the Victorian postal network is hard to comprehend. It was a web of people, trains, horses, and buildings that stretched across an empire. From a small village in the Scottish Highlands to the bustling streets of London, the system was a constant low hum of activity. You, the postman, were a small but vital part of that hum. You were the final link in the chain, the one who took the sorted mail from the central hub and delivered it to its final destination. And with every letter you delivered, you were helping to write the story of a nation, one quiet step at a time. The streetlights flicker, a horse-drawn cab clatters past, and you continue on your way, your satchel a little lighter, your mind a little fuller with the unspoken stories of the city. The moon is high in the sky now, a pale disk illuminating the quiet streets. You've completed your route, but the day's work isn't quite finished. You have one more crucial task: to deliver the final sack of collected letters to the main sorting office. This is a quiet, final act of the day, a physical bridge between the outside world and the massive, unseen infrastructure that powers the postal network. You are the last link in the chain, the one who takes the stories of a city and a nation and brings them into the system, ready for their next step. Let's talk about the intelligence and surveillance functions of the Postal Service. This is a fascinating and often uncomfortable mainstream historical fact. The GPO, as a branch of the government, was not just a delivery service. It was also a tool for intelligence gathering. Governments, particularly during times of political unrest or war, would use the post office to monitor the mail of their citizens. They would intercept and open letters, looking for signs of dissent or treason. This was a secret, often denied part of the Postal Service, and it created a deep tension between the public's trust in the postman and the government's need for control. Historians still argue whether this kind of surveillance was a necessary part of national security or a gross violation of privacy. It was likely a bit of both. The postman, in this context, was an unwitting participant in a secret world of espionage and control, a quiet soldier in a war of information. And speaking of secrets, let's talk about a quirky tidbit of postal history: the postage due stamp. Before the penny black, the recipient often paid the fee for a letter. But even after the prepaid system was introduced, people would sometimes send a letter without a stamp, often to a family member who was expecting it. When the letter arrived, it would be marked with a postage due stamp, and the recipient would have to pay a fee to receive it. It was a kind of informal, unspoken contract between the sender and the receiver, a quiet promise that the letter was worth the cost. It's a small, almost forgotten detail, but it speaks to the human element of the Postal Service, the way people would find a way to make the system work for them, even if it meant bending the rules a little. You are walking through the empty streets, the sound of your boots on the pavement the only noise. You are a solitary figure, but you are also a part of something much larger than yourself. The post office is a massive impersonal machine, but you, the postman, are its human face. You are the one who brings a piece of the world to a person's doorstep, the one who connects a distant family, a far-flung friend, or a business associate. And in doing so, you are a vital part of the engine of progress, the quiet, dependable force that holds a society together. The streetlights flicker, a horse-drawn cab clatters past, and you continue on your way, your satchel a little lighter, your mind a little fuller with the unspoken stories of the city. The sheer scale of the Victorian postal network is hard to comprehend. It was a web of people, trains, horses, and buildings that stretched across an empire. From a small village in the Scottish Highlands to the bustling streets of London, the system was a constant low hum of activity. You, the postman, were a small but vital part of that hum. You were the final link in the chain, the one who took the sorted mail from the central hub and delivered it to its final destination. And with every letter you delivered, you were helping to write the story of a nation, one quiet step at a time. The streetlights flicker, a horse-drawn cab clatters past, and you continue on your way, your satchel a little lighter, your mind a little fuller with the unspoken stories of the city. You've made it. The final stop of your long day, the main sorting office, a massive humming hive of activity even in the late hours. You drop your sack of collected mail onto a large cart, and it joins hundreds of others, a silent testament to the stories and connections you've helped create. Your job is done for the day, but the work of the post office is just beginning. The mail you collected will be sorted through the night, a relentless, efficient process, and will be on its way to its destination by morning. You are a small, vital part of this immense, ceaseless cycle. Let's talk about the legacy of the Victorian Postal Service. This is a mainstream historical fact that you live and breathe every day. The systems, the innovations, and the sense of public duty you've seen firsthand are the foundation of every modern postal service in the world. The concept of a single, prepaid rate for a letter, the use of stamps, the network of sorting offices and mail trains. These were all revolutionary ideas that originated in the Victorian era. The post office was a pioneer, not just in communication, but in logistics, finance, and social service. It was a model of government-run efficiency and public trust. The sheer scale and success of the GPO in the 19th century is a testament to the power of a single, brilliant idea to make communication accessible to everyone. Historians still argue whether the Victorian Postal Service's success was due to a few key innovators or the dedicated, tireless work of thousands of postmen like you. It was likely a bit of both. And let's end with a quirky tidbit, a small detail that speaks to the human element of your job. The Victorian postman was a kind of unofficial historian of his community. Because you saw every letter, you knew the rhythm of life in a neighborhood. You knew when a baby was born, when a family member died, when someone was getting married. You were a walking, talking record of a community's life, a repository of its most private moments. It's a role you don't talk about, a kind of unwritten social contract you have with the people on your route. And in a world that is becoming more and more connected, you were, in a very real sense, the human face of that connection. You leave the sorting office, the air outside cool and crisp. The streets are empty now, and you walk home, your footsteps echoing on the pavement. The day's journey is truly over. You have delivered the stories of a nation, one quiet step at a time. the world of secret pencil marks, of live pigeons in the mail, of money orders and postage due stamps. It's all a part of your daily life, a part of the grand, messy, beautiful story of a society that was learning to talk to itself, one letter at a time. The weight of your satchel is gone now, but the weight of the day's stories remains. The faces you saw, the doors you knocked on, the letters you delivered, they are all a part of you now. You are more than a postman. You are a quiet hero, a dependable force in a changing world. And as you finally reach your own door, you feel a quiet sense of satisfaction. You did your job. You connected the world. Now, as you stand there, the cool night air wrapping around you, let that feeling of accomplishment wash over you. The day's long walk, the gentle rhythm of it all, is now a soft, fading memory. All the sounds of the city, the clatter of a distant cab, the faint hum of the gas lamps, they are all just a soft background to the quiet peace of your own home. You can let go of the satchel, the letters, the secrets they hold. Just let the feeling of tiredness, that good, honest fatigue from a day well spent, settle over you like a warm blanket. Your journey is complete. There's no need to think about tomorrow's route or the letters that will be waiting for you. Just the soft hum of the night, the peaceful silence of a city at rest. All is quiet now. You can let go. Just let go and ease into a gentle, dreamless sleep.